Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1176A, and today's date is January 12th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Warning: the Icarus Trade is Coming. Prepare for a meltdown of the market in 2017. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, out in the Eurozone is on shaky ground right now ahead of elections. The recovery is not taking off like they thought. They're telling us still that the Eurozone is doing a lot better than in the past. They're trying to convince us that unemployment is coming down. But what we're really seeing is nothing has really changed. Actually, the bank problems are getting worse. Retail didn't do as well. And unemployment, well, it's ticking up again. And a poll of over 65 economists this week showed little change in forecasts for growth and inflation. And they're citing uncertainty from rising protectionists after the Brexit vote. And what is happening right now is that we have elections coming up throughout Europe: Germany, France, the Netherlands, Italy. And they're saying, listen, if these governments are removed from power, well, the economies might just implode. And they're playing this up pretty big right now. And if you remember, they said this right before the Brexit. Well, if you vote to leave the EU, then guess what's going to happen? The economy is going to implode. Things are going to be horrific. But guess what? It didn't happen. But NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg, he is playing this up, saying that Russia is going to interfere in the elections throughout Europe, just like they did in the United States, where they made Donald Trump win. And what he's really saying right now is that they're very worried that the people are going to vote for others to be in power. And this is what they're most afraid of, because they realize that time is ticking down and they might not be in power anymore. So what they do is they use the fear-mongering of the economy is going to implode if we're not there to protect it. Well, the economy is going to implode anyhow, but just because they're not in power, it doesn't mean that everything's going to fall apart. It's a scare tactic. But we can see throughout Europe and throughout the United States, the economies are imploding. And it's because of them. It's because of the central banks. It's because of their policies. But they don't want to admit that. Here in the United States, we see that the United States has lost 286,000 manufacturing jobs during the time President Obama has been in office. And this is coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And at the same time, the United States gained 3.2 million jobs in retail, food services, and drinking places. Now remember, manufacturing jobs, they were the high-paying jobs. And according to BLS, the hourly earning wage was around $26.37 compared to a food service or drink place worker, which was making about $13.60 an hour. And what we see from that is that the manufacturing workers were making 94% more than those workers that worked in the food services and drinking places. And this is what our economy has turned into, where people are making less money, less revenue coming into the government. We're losing high-paying jobs. Now, manufacturing jobs were at their peak at 19.5 million in June of 1979. There were 10 million retail jobs in the United States at the time. And what has happened is that manufacturing jobs continually declined, and retail jobs continually increased. And it wasn't an even trade-off. And this is why we see people out there who are struggling right now, because if they had this type of job in manufacturing, they would have to get a different job, maybe in retail or the food industry, making a lot less money. And it makes it very difficult to survive. Now, Amazon is out there, and they're saying they're going to be creating 100,000 new jobs in the next 18 months. And when you look at their growth and their profits from sales. Well, it's been declining since 2010 all the way up to 2014-15, and then had a little spike up, but it's declining once again. But they're going to add more employees. Of course, this is talk right now. We'll have to see what happens because, as we can see, retail has not been doing that great. Even online orders not doing that great. And what's very interesting about all this is that we're still seeing layoffs and closures in retail. Continuing jobless claims are up over 100,000 since the election and stand at a 4-month high. This is the biggest percentage rise in claims since May of 2009, all happening as small business optimism, consumer confidence, and stocks are soaring all at the same time. Something's wrong here. Now, someone emailed me something about Lowe's and how they're restructuring right now, and this is Richie, I'll only say his first name, where he says that as of January 17th, we're going to see something take place where Lowe's might be getting rid of between 15 and 20,000 people. They might be losing their jobs. And we can see right now that this is spreading. More and more retail outlets, well, they're getting rid of people. They're using the excuse of restructuring, or they're just going bankrupt. Now, I know Amazon is out there saying they're going to be hiring 100,000 people over 18 months. Just in the year of 2016, according to the government figures, there were 44,000 retail jobs that were lost. So when we look at this and we go back to 2015, there's even more retail jobs, and we can see there's more layoffs coming. So is this number true? Most likely not. They always manipulate. They don't show the actual layoffs during that period of time. And what we're seeing right now is that there are many, many stores that are going bankrupt. They're closing down. They're getting to lay off. And it doesn't look like the economy is expanding. It looks like it is contracting. Now, I know Donald Trump is out there and he's trying to create these jobs, but you have to remember, we have lost millions and millions and millions of jobs. Actually, we lost about 1.8 million manufacturing jobs up to this point, and to get them all back in a small window is going to be quite impossible. Now, something very interesting is happening in real estate. Trulia found that the number of home sale failures spiked in the fourth quarter of 2016 to nearly double the 2015 rate, with starter homes being most at risk. Nationally, sales have been falling at an increasing rate, rising to about 4.3% in the fourth quarter of 2016 from 1.4% of all listed properties during the fourth quarter of 2014. On an annual basis, the failure rate has nearly doubled to 3.9% in 2016, up from 2.1% in 2015. And what we're seeing right now is individuals are saying, yes, I would like this home, and then they never go through with it. They signed, the deal was sealed, and then all of a sudden there was no deal. And they're seeing a lot of these failures pick up. I mean, if we look at Charleston, South Carolina, the starter sales fails, the percentage in 2015 was 2.7%. In 2016, it's 16.5%. In Texas, it was 5.3% in 2015, and it's 15.3% in 2016. In Houston, Texas, it was 8.7%, now it's 12.8%. In Atlanta, Georgia, it was 7.1% in 2015 and 13.8% in 2016. In California, in LA, it's 5.8% in 2015, and in 2016 it's 12.2%. So what we're seeing failures increase as time goes on. Now, we see the central bankers are out there and they're saying, listen, globalization is not to blame for the world turmoil. Now, the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, which they have this meeting in Davos, Switzerland, where the global elite meet, they are out there saying that, listen, there's no alternative to globalization, warning that isolationism, poses a danger. The world is already fragile, and we are not responsible for this. We're not to blame. So wait a minute. They're saying that they're putting forth their globalization efforts, and the central bank wants control of the world. They're dictating economic policies. They're creating currency. They're controlling the interest rates. They're printing currency and manipulating all the statistics, but they have no responsibility. It's not us. It must be you. What they're really saying is if countries move back to isolationism, move back to where we were before globalization, what's going to happen is everything is going to prosper. And this is what they're worried about. I mean, think about Brexit. They said everything was going to fall apart, and it didn't. Globalization is the problem. The central banks in control, they are the problem, but they're already shifting the blame. Now, Bank of America, they are warning of an Icarus trade warning. And what they're saying right now is that the rally is going to end. Now, we saw the start of the rally in February of 2016, and they're saying we're going to see a wobble effect where it's going to bounce up and down, and eventually what's going to happen is that in 2017, they don't know exactly when, but the latter part, they're saying the market is going to melt down. And we can see right now that we are seeing parts of this where the market is wobbling. And they're calling this the Icarus trade. So what we're seeing right now is that there's a warning out there that this market is primed and ready to fall apart. And they're saying that the signals that the big top in risk assets is approaching in coming quarters will likely be fatigue in high yield and U.S. banks, contrarian rally in gold, and rates volatility as the era of excess liquidity reverses. So what we're going to see, most likely, is a system that will completely melt down. And this is why you need to be ready and prepared. Because we know the central bankers have created this gigantic illusion around the world. We've been looking at all the hard data. None of it makes sense to what is happening. It's an illusion. Go back in history. Just go back to 2008. Leading up to the crash, nothing made sense. Those individuals that were looking at the subprime security, they couldn't believe what was happening. Why these things were still working and they didn't collapse, they couldn't put their finger on it. But eventually what happened, and of course everyone was laughing at them. Oh, these crazy people, look at them. Oh my God, they really think that these aren't AAA? They really think they're going to crash? They're crazy people. But eventually what happened was the illusion fell apart. The system crashed. And all those people who laughed lost their jobs, lost a lot of money. And those people who did research and looked at the hard data and said, this can't be true. This is fake. They made a lot of money because they knew how to play the system. What we're seeing right now is that we've been looking at the hard data. It doesn't make sense in what the government, what the central banks are telling us. It's a lie. It's an illusion. And just like 2008, 2001, 1929, it's all going to come down. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.